Shalom. I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ha, Racha, Kodash, Ma'amath. Double honors to the elder apostles of GMS and their elders. Double honors to my elder, Aharawan Ban Yasharala of the Lions Den camp, located here in Jacksonville, Florida. Also, salutations to the sincere Akim, pushing his truth and sincerity around the four corners of this earth. I'm Nakar Harab Ban Yasharala coming out of the Lions Den camp of Yasharala here in Jacksonville, Florida. And now today I'll be coming out with a lesson, and it's another article that the bishop of this camp, Kanak, put in the group chat, and it explains that Korea is now developing what they would call a solid fuel missile. So without further ado, let's get right into it. It says, explainer, what are solid fuel missiles and why is North Korea developing them? But let's continue. This is by that name right there. I don't feel like pronouncing it. So but let's continue. It says Seoul, Reuters, North Korea test fired what it says was a new intermediate range ballistic missile, on Sunday. It says, in what would be its first such missile powered by solid fuel designed boost capabilities for launching with little preparation. So they ain't got to fuel up nothing. They could just probably put this thing inside of the missile and hit it and it go. But let's continue. It says the new missile was also equipped with a hypersonic maneuverable controlled warhead. The state media said, sounds like an ICBM to me. But let's continue. And it says hypersonic. Hypersonic. That's pretty much faster than sound. Like radars don't even pick it up. It's moving so fast. But let's continue. It says the launch comes after the nuclear-armed North said it had tested solid fuel engines for an upcoming new type, of course, intermediate range ballistic missile in November, and conducted at least 3 tests last year of its new solid fuel Hwasong 18, intercontinental ballistic missile. As a matter of fact, real quick before I continue, this is the definition of that word Hwasong. It says most North Korean missiles have been given an alphanumeric designator in the Hwasong sequence. The word Hwasong being a Korean word meaning powerful, innovative, or sacrifice. So there you go. The Lord done had them heathens to come up with a powerful, innovative, new form of fuel to power their ICBMs and their immediate range ballistic missiles as well. But let's continue. It says the launch comes after the nuclear-armed North. The launch comes after North Korea said it had tested solid fuel engines for an upcoming new type in November and conducted at least 3 tests last year of its new solid fuel Hwasong ICBM. It says here are some of the characteristics of solid fuel technology. How can it help improve North Korea's missile systems? It says what are some of the advantages? Solid fuel does not need to be fueled immediately ahead of launch. Often easier and safe to operate and requires less logistical support, making them harder to detect and more survivable than liquid fuel. Because, when they have to fuel those weapons with liquid fuel, they have to fuel them up first. So it's a prep time. And then once it get fueled, then they have to shoot it. With this solid fuel, like I said, they probably got some kind of compartment on the missile where they just clasp it on, put it in there and lock it in or whatever they do and fire and it's gone. The Lord doing this, by the way, so let's continue. It says these capabilities are much more responsive in a time of crisis. Makes more sense, said Ankit Panada, a senior fellow at the U.S. Base Range Carnegie Endowment, blah, blah. Fuck the hell with Babylon. Let's continue. It says solid propellants are a mixture of fuel and oxidizer. Metallic powder such as aluminum often serve as the fuel, and ammonium perchlorate, which is the salt of perchloric acid and ammonia, is the most common oxidizer. The fuel and oxidizer are bound together by a hard rubbery metal packed into a metal casing. When the solid propellant burns, oxygen from the ammonium perchlorate combines with the aluminum to generate enormous amounts of energy and temperatures of more than 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit or 2,760 degrees Celsius. It says creating thrust and lifting the missile from the launch pad. It says who has that technology? Korea has the technology. It says solid fuels date back to fireworks by the Chinese, the Moabites, centuries ago, but made dramatic progress in the mid 20th century when the U.S. developed more powerful propellants. Yeah. It says North Korea uses solid fuel in a range of small, shorter range ballistic missiles. The Soviet Union fielded its first solid fuel ICBM, the R2, in the early 70s, Slovakia, followed by France's development of the S3, also known as the SSBS. You know, I'm gonna leave the joke out of that. Uh, a medium-range ballistic missile. China started testing solid fuel ICBM missiles in the late 1990s. South Korea has also said it has secured efficient and advanced solid propellant ballistic missile technology, though in much smaller rockets so far. Yeah, let's continue. It says liquid propellants provide greater propulsive thrust and power, but require more complex technology and extra weight. So liquid fuel is a little bit more heavier. It says solid fuel is dense and burns quite quickly, generating thrust over a short time. Solid fuel can remain in storage for an extended period without degrading or breaking down, a common issue with liquid fuel. It says North Korea said the development of its new solid fuel ICBM, the Hwasong 18, would radically promote its nuclear counterattack capabilities, and that's very true. That's a way quicker response time than having to fuel up a whole missile and then launch it off. They can just pop that little fuel cell or whatever it is and hit the button and pyong, it's gone. But let's continue. It says after the first launch, South Korea's defense ministry sought to downplay the testing, saying the North would need extra time and effort to master the technology. Uh, excuse my French, but bullshit. The North Korea they didn't mastered it and they got it down pat and they gonna figure out a way to get it to be put in the ICBM missile and burn long enough to get that mug where it need to go to where it's going. But without further ado, let's get some scriptures. This is Joel chapter 3. I'm gonna just start at verse 9. It says, "Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, these other heathen nations. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up." So this is a preparing. These are these Gentiles, these heathen nations, preparing the mighty men of these Gentiles. You know, their leaders and their soldiers. It says, "Let all the men of war draw near," meaning come together, get ready for battle, because this is what this is for. Korea designed this for war, for battle, and they plan on using it. It is what it is. War is here. It is looming. It's going to happen, regardless of how much Esau tries to downplay it and try to put it on the back burner. No, this is front. This is front street information. This is a front street war, and it's gonna happen. And these other nations, and they gladly developing these weapons of war. They're WMDs, if you want to call them that. You know, they're gladly upgrading their Brigandine. while Babylon America is constantly falling behind. And it's the Heavenly Father that's doing this. He's the one that's giving all these nations breakthroughs in their technology, in their weaponry, in their brigandine, i.e. their armies. It's the Heavenly Father doing this. Come on, let's continue. Verse 10. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say I'm strong. And this is a perfect example of that. These other nations are what? They're beating their plowshares into swords. They're taking the things they once used for, we'll say, agriculture or for their economic benefit, and now they're putting it into their military industrial complex. They're building weapons. That's what it means. It's basically saying turn your plows into swords. Your pruning hook into spears. That's what it means. Develop weapons. Make ready for war. So again, it says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say I am strong. And that's what the weak is doing. Because once upon a time, North Korea was considered weak. China was considered weak. A lot of these nations were considered weak. Now they are strong because they've took their plowshares and beaten them in the swords, and their pruning hooks into spears. So they're getting ready for a war, getting ready to fight, and that's what's going on. Verse 11. It says, assemble yourselves and come up, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh. So the Lord is saying, assemble. He's saying to these nations, assemble yourselves, all ye heathen, you non-Israelites. You know, gather together round about, meaning get ready for war, get ready to fight, because it's going to happen. It says, cause thy mighty ones to come down. So it's finna be some stuff that's finna go down. And it says, oh Yahweh. So not only is these other nations finna gather up together and go to fight, and the Lord gonna have he gonna have Yahweh Shah and the heavenly hosts as well, getting in on this war too. Verse 12. It says, let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there I will sit to judge all the heathen round about. So it says, let the heathen be awakened. Again, let them get ready for war, because the Lord he's going to gather them in the valley of Jehoshaphat, where the Heavenly Father is going to judge these nations round about. You got to think, when these nations fighting and vying over power, that's when Yahweh Shai going to show up with the heavenly host. Yahweh Shai is one of those mighty ones that the Lord is going to cause to come down. And they gonna be scared in the mud when he show up, because the heavenly host gonna be with him with a chariot the size of a mountain, or probably even bigger. So war is happening. War is on the horizon. It is going to happen. And the Lord is going to what? He's going to gather these other nations into the valley of Jehoshaphat. I'm going to jump up to verse 2. It says, I will also gather all the nations. So let me read that again. It says, I will also gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. So the Lord is not only is a war going to happen, he going to gather these other nations, these heathen nations, brigandines, their wars, their armies, into the valley of Jehoshaphat, where the Lord is going to plead with him there, where he's going to judge, Yahweh Shaphat, the Lord's judgment, his judgment place or seat. The Lord is doing this. He's gathering these nations, and the Lord going to keep retrofitting, or i.e., causing these other nations to develop more and more and more weapons until everything is set up the way he wanted, and then it's gonna come an end. And with that, shalom.